Very great. I can't start. So, hello? Can you guys hear me? Okay, good. So who knows what is cloud native? Raise your hands. You know what is cloud native. Okay, good. So I'm bringing something new for us. I normally try to bring something new, and sometimes, it's so new. Like my first presentation about Docker, it was in 2013. Nobody knew what was Docker, but gladly the room was packed in DrupalCon, and that was the kickstart of using Docker in Drupal. So today, I am presenting something new again. It's called Cloud Native, and it has a landscape, it has a community, and this goes beyond Docker, it goes beyond Kubernetes itself. So it's very new. Well, it's not new, but maybe it's new for the Drupal community. So before we start, a little bit about me. For those that don't know me, my name is Ricardo Amaro. I'm one of the founders of the Portuguese Drupal Association. I am passionate about Linux, free software, DevOps. I also contribute to several projects. Drupal is one of them, Kubernetes, Open Telemetry. And aside from that, I have published a few things there in books and journals, and I'm submitting a thesis soon, hopefully. So today, we're going to start with the challenges and then see what impacts are we seeing in Drupal and DevOps based on cloud native. What are the cloud native principles, the key projects and the products that we have on cloud native, and then see an example of a Drupal in cloud native environment, see the overview of that, and then see a successful Drupal transition that we did in Acquia, and then some conclusions and takeaways. And something that I added there, very new, so you might want to contribute to that. I have a surprise repo to share. So Drupal environments and applications, they present several challenges, as Arnandi was saying. So we start seeing the problem that sometimes we have in production in terms of scalability, right? And these applications that we put in production, they should be able to efficiently scale up and down based on the demands of the customers. But traditionally, Drupal is not very good at that. We know that. So it struggles to handle unexpected loads. You all been there. And also it needs to be resilient. So our web systems must also recover, right? If there is a failure, how do we recover from that without a human being have to go there and fix it, right? How do we fix, that's a challenge, right? And then flexibility. We see there's a fast-paced technology changes and advances, and Drupal applications are not getting into pace with that. We need to build an architecture that allows rapid evolution, update, and iteration of that evolution. So modernizing Drupal applications to use distributed systems and cloud native architectures addresses these needs. So recapitulating the impact on Drupal and DevOps that we want to achieve is performance improvements, cost reduction at scale, and improve reliability. And I'm going to challenge Hernani. With this, you'll also get, it also works on my machine. Because of containers, obviously. So why cloud native? We're going to focus on architectural design, operational efficiency, and system reliability. So on the architectural design, the architecture is microservice. If you don't know who doesn't know what is a microservice? Who knows what is a microservice? Who knows what is a microservice? If not, I can explain. Okay, a microservice is the opposite of a monolith. So if you have an application that has everything inside of it, right, it will be more difficult to update that application, right? And Drupal is one of those applications. We know, it's a monolith, right? So how do we still maintain Drupal and put it on microservices that each of the pieces, like a Lego puzzle, can be updated and streamlined for production? We do that with containerization. And we do that with declarative APIs, and we try to have loosely coupled services. Who knows what is loosely coupled services? Okay, so a loosely coupled service is easy to understand. If you are, imagine you have your Drupal site, and it's contacting the Visa payment provider. Is that loosely coupled or decoupled? It's decoupled because you have their API. They just have a contract on that API. They provide you the calls and they give you the response, right? You're not coding on their side. You're just using their API. So it's decoupled. And we need to move Drupal in that direction as much as possible. So each of the pieces have an evolution in different ways. And then operational efficiency. Cloud native principles guide you onto that. So you can orchestrate full platform in seconds. We can see an example of that. And then you want to have continuous integration and delivery inside of the platform natively. You don't want to, it can't be a post thought, like, yeah, I'm doing sites, and after I build this site, now I'm going to think, how am I going to test this site before it goes to production? No, it needs to be a thought when you're developing, right? And for that, automation is the key. And so is system reliability. There are two main factors on system reliability. I guess everybody knows what is scalability. You scale up or down. And resiliency. Resiliency is a main factor that you don't get for free. Resiliency, you have to fight for it, right? You don't get it for free. But you need to have it, because if you don't have resiliency, then your sites are down and there is nothing you can do. So the cloud-native computing landscape itself is composed of 184 different projects and products, covering everything you can think of, from applications for development, deployment, operations, management. Obviously, we're not going to go over all of them, but this ecosystem has tools and products that there are full open source communities developing them for your needs. So if you're not using them, you're not taking the advantage. So this include also CI/CD monitoring, security, networking, just to name a few. And as I was saying, it's based on a community, an open source community culture. It has diverse industries behind it. It has fast innovation and customization. So if we could summarize what I mean by cloud native landscape, this is the one slide, right? And to be clear, not all applications fit in the screen there. There's no 184. So I selected a few, just the graduated and the incubating ones here, and there are 62. So means graduated and incubating projects of that means that you can clearly use them because they have some kind of a strong community behind them and they are being actively used. So for the Drupal to use this cloud native environment, we need to account for a few points. This ecosystem can provide development and management, hosting and provisioning, monitoring, CI/CD, orchestration, and security. So let's see examples of these tools. These are the ones that I selected. Who knows this one? Helm. Okay, so I think this is one of the most known ones, right? Helm is nothing much than just a declarative way of saying, I want my infrastructure to be like this in YAML. So you have a couple of YAML files that we call shards, and these shards are saying, okay, install this, this is the version X, Y, Z, and so on. And then we have Kubernetes. Obviously, that's the most known one, right? Because that's the one that exists for a long time. And then you have Terraform. Terraform is very new to cloud native. They just recently, they're trying to catch the train. There is the cloud native train that I'm trying to say to the Drupal community, catch that train, right? This is what this HashiCorp company that owns Terraform is doing is very significant. Oh, who knows Terraform? Who has used Terraform? Okay, 2, 3, 4. Good. I think that you're on the lead here. And then we have monitoring. There are two major tools. There are a lot of tools, but there are two major tools that I would pick from that list that are graduated. So you have Prometheus and Grafana. I know that Prometheus has kind of, it's kind of a hate and love. I know that Boris would have his own thoughts about Prometheus, right? But it does the job and is open source monitoring system for alerting and a toolkit and all of that. Oh wow. I think I'm running out of battery. Sorry, where were we? Oh, okay. So Prometheus is one of those tools that will permit you to do monitoring and alerting at the same time. And Grafana is basically the way that you see those metrics coming to you. But monitoring is actually not the latest thing in terms of observing your system, right? If you still think about just monitoring, you're lacking behind because there are now more tools that permit you to see what's happening with your system. And those are called observability tools, not monitoring tools. Here you see OpenTelemetry. It's an incubating project that permits you to collect data and metrics and traces. And then you have Jaeger, where you can collect and watch the traces. You can see, for instance, if there is a Drupal call in PHP, you could see where the call actually got stuck or failed. And that's Jaeger, because it's a sidecar that runs, just beside the main container with Drupal. And then obviously you have FluentD. If you have Drupal DB logs, you can just use FluentD to centralize the logs. And now we're getting to the really nice stuff. I was talking at lunch about this. There is a new kid on the block. It's called Tekton. So Tekton is very powerful for actually, it's an open source tool, obviously, for creating CI/CD systems. Also using just YAML. It allows the developers to build, test, and deploy across cloud providers and on-premises systems, and it can be used to automate the deployment of the Drupal site. And Argo CD is a declarative GitOps delivery tool running on top of Kubernetes. aside from that, there are security and compliance tools that you can use from the cloud native landscape. And I would focus on these three for the usage of Drupal. They are very, very important. So the first one is OPA. It's called the Open Policy Agent. So if you have policies that you want your infrastructure to have, this is the best tool for the job. And then you have Falco. If you have security vulnerabilities, which you want to watch if they are in your production environment. Imagine you have pods that are still not updated. They have a security vulnerability, and your customer somehow got affected. You can watch, those vulnerabilities before they become a problem using Falco. And then you have the cert manager. The cert manager, who knows the cert manager? Okay, so the cert manager is basically this. Have you ever had the problem where you want to have a site that uses HTTPS without you having to install any certificate, like fully automated? This is the tool for it. It just puts a digital certificate on front of your site or API or whatever you need, using Let's Encrypt or any other service. In this case, we use Let's Encrypt. So, this is picking up where Hernani left, and this is my proposal for a Drupal developer workflow, where you have your DDEV, right? Either running on the Git pod or running locally and so on, and you can do your updates and tests, and you can see the site locally, but you're building, you're coding, you're doing your stuff here, right? But then you have to have some way that this is, without you doing any manual work, goes into test, right? And if the tests all pass, you want to go into release, right? Create a tag, and then that tag deploys to, after dev, if it's all okay, you deploy to production. And this is where Argo CD actually enters. So to have a better look into this, you can see here, right? If I'm doing a DDEV development, right? And this is using Git flow. You can use trunk-based development or Git flow. In this case, it's Git flow, right? I'm using the main development branch, right? So I'm in DDEV, I made a change, it goes to the main development branch, and then if I want, I can put it on dev, right? And then what happens is Tecton is looking at dev, right? And if there is any change, it immediately tests that, creates the container, and puts that into the dev environment, right? And then without you even, you can configure it either way. But if you want, you can make it automatically that if this is fully okay and the test pass, you can move this using Argo CD to go to prod. You can see the line here, right? Feature, production. So yeah, okay. Main is production here. Sorry, the feature is where you're working. So this, you might think, okay, but many times I'm developing and there is a problem and I get my things broken if I deploy them automatically. So Argo CD is a great tool for that, because if you configure the health checks correctly, it will not deploy. Instead, it will create several code releases before it actually deploys to any of the visible production environments. So imagine you have a problem in a database, right, for that version, and it gets a 503. It gets a 503, even if you have a new thing that's ready in Argo CD to be switched to production, it will not, because Kubernetes will not let you fail. Cool, and this is the whole workflow. just summarizing, we still have 6 minutes. We have DDev, right? And from DDev, we go to the Git repository. So you push from DDev to the Git repository. And then you have the Tecton pipeline, CI/CD, which picks up from there. And then you have Argo CD, which deploys Drupal to dev or prod in sequence, ensuring that the desired state machines are what you have in the Git repo, matches what you have on the Git repository. And then you start seeing the things from bottom up, which is Prometheus and Grafana, so you can watch what's happening in dev, what's happening in the production, and observe using OpenTelemetry, Jaeger, and Fluentd, either logs or the traces that we talked about, which is basically debugging live. And then you have the cert manager, OPA, and Falco doing their work basically on the production side. Cool. So I wanted to finalize telling you, this actually works. We did that. We did this successful transition in Acquia. We have a thing called Drupal Cloud Classic, and now we moved, I think, maybe 70% of our customers now, 60% to Cloud Native. So we're using these tools, not all of them, right? And we're using some things that are different, but we're getting these benefits here: scalability, resilience, flexibility, and automation. And the amount of clusters, we have 50 clusters, and we're not talking about nodes, right? Nodes, we have around 24,000 nodes in 50 clusters. Why do we have more clusters than just one cluster for all of the nodes? Because the Kubernetes API wouldn't handle it. There are limits, right? etcd wouldn't handle it. And then we have 68,000 pods running all the time in total. And with this, we got cost reduction, and we use machine learning for it. So we implemented several tools that actually see which pods are not being utilized, and then reduces those pods, and tries to leverage 5 minutes or 5 seconds. Okay, cool. And this obviously has less operational toil, and you can do more releases. We see people, going from 1 month between releases to 1 day now. 1 week, 1 day. And I have something to share. If you want, I created a framework for this. It's on this site here. GitLab, my name, and Drupal NCF, which means Cloud Native Computing Foundation. And it's just this workflow, right? Of course, people can, work on top of that, make pull requests, suggest changes, but the full instructions here, there are 3 commands you run. If you want to run this on your machine, there are just 3 commands. Basically, one command is to create the cluster if you're working locally, or you can use a EKS, AWS cluster, or a Google cluster, or Azure cluster. And then install Argo CD. And then there is a small thing here on this repo inside of the Argo apps folder here, which calls the root file. And the root file, just inject this root file into Kubernetes, and you can see all of the applications installing themselves without any human intervention. Cool. So we talked about the core principles. There was a practical overview, tools for effective cloud native adoption, an example, open source repository for collaborating, and that's it. I think we're on time, right? Questions? No questions? It was too geek. Okay, good. Yes, it is. It is. But um, but the cloud native foundation is not, right? The cloud native is. Yeah, it is. It is. It is. Right. But there is an increase of visibility of these tools. So imagine you have a full ecosystem of open source like we discussed many, many times on Drupal, right? And people hear, oh, Drupal, 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 Drupal. It's Drupal every day. There is a huge amount of open source out there. We're not taking advantage of it. It's like, I don't care. I just like Drupal, right? You should at least, take advantage of the knowledge that's out there and try to understand. And the Cloud Native Foundation is actually huge. I was in KubeCon now in Paris, 12,000 people there, right? And in last year in North America, KubeCon, Cloud Native Con, KubeCon, it was 18,000 people, right? So it means something, right? There is a lot of opportunity there. We need to be aware of that. There you go. Right. So sorry if this was, I'm just trying to show stuff that's going on out there and see if you want, to pick it up, basically. Cool. No other questions? Yeah. Yeah. So, well, that's not this community, but yeah, there's a portal. Yeah, 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 yeah. Why not? Since we are also contributing to Kubernetes, there is a Porto KCD that's going to happen in September. I think they don't have site yet. Maybe we should build a Drupal site for them. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, right, right, right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a huge community that's just popping up right now. It's very vibrant. It's amazing. Anyway, and we should, take advantage and mix with them and join forces and all of that. Cool. Okay. Thank you for your time.